Okay, so for a part of the theme park assessment, you have to address some criteria. Throughout the rest of your life, you're going to have to address criteria quite frequently, and basically that's job criteria. So the most common way that human beings have to address criteria is when they apply for a job. So when we apply for jobs, it says things like, demonstrate your communication skills, or demonstrate your research skills, or demonstrate these types of skills and knowledge that you have. And then basically this is then we actually have to justify about you in relation to that criteria. So you would explain why you have good communication skills. But for your assignment, the first thing you have to do is actually talk about the quality of your park and its attractions. So when we're addressing criteria, we think about pros and cons. So we think about what are we good at, or what's good about it, what's bad about it. But then you have to paint yourself in a good light. So what that means is you think more about the pros, but you have to accept the cons as well. So when you think about the rides that you've got, the attractions you've got, think about what's really good about them, but then be conscious of what the weaknesses are, because it means that if people then talk about your weaknesses, that you can then address them and you're prepared, all right? Or you can even acknowledge them. So that's the first one you have to do. The next one you have to do is the sustainability of your park. So this is those environmental ideas. This is a section of the assessment that wasn't done as strongly, so it did ask for a paragraph. So make sure you can justify why you have recycling bins. All right, you've got them, but why does that matter? Why is that good for sustainability? Again, those pros and cons, you need to go into a bit more detail to explain why having a recycling bin is important. All right, so make sure you get into the detail when you're addressing criteria. You've actually got to be quite explicit with your evidence and your details. Then you have to say, well, the local climate. Now you can't control that. That's not a factor you can control. So what you have to do is be very, very conscious of your pros and cons, and reflect heavily on, or carefully on, the best attributes of the climate of the area you're in, and how you're going to manage the negative aspects of that climate. Because unlike the rides and sustainability, which are things that you can control and you can manage and alter, climate is something that you actually can't control, so you've got to learn how to live with it. So the addressing of this criteria is more about how you are engaging with the climate of the area, and how you're going to use that in relation to your park. All right, demographics. This is again explaining how you're going to use the population of the area. So if there are lots of families, well, that's good. What bonuses? Some of you come up with some really cool ideas to address certain demographics in the area of the places that you lived, such as discounts for university students and things like that. So there was some good thinking going on there, and rides for older people. So sell yourselves here. Make sure you're very conscious about how you've used the demographics of the population to sustain your park. And also consider your tourists, but the tourists come a bit more in the next one. But your local population is going to sustain you, and how you're going to use that in relation to your park. And this is where the tourists come in. So how are you going to promote your park? So think about what you did with your logo here. Some of you actually came up with a logo and a tagline or a slogan. So think about how you're going to use that to attract the tourists to the state that you're in, and how you might leverage that a little bit. So again, pros and cons. So the whole thing about promoting a park and promoting your ideas is thinking about what's really, really good about it, and addressing things that might not be as good. Okay, so this is how we address criteria. We're going to do a practice run in class, but we're going to do something slightly different.